It's not looking good because Bitcoin managed to get all the way up to 102, even a little bit higher than 102K, but it's now back down. It's actually already retested $92,000, and the implications could lead us down below even 90, 80, maybe even $70,000 and lower. So I want to be talking to you about that in this YouTube video. And if you're excited for it, do me a favor and smash up those likes as you are coming in here for our nearly perfect analysis. I was completely wrong, of course, in the last video because I was actually very positive that we were going to continue going higher. However, there's the one thing that I did say, which is that, we've got to break this 102K range conclusively. I told you that my key level would be 103. We didn't reach that, so that's kind of where I told you guys I'd be really expecting us to set new highs, but obviously I was pretty confident here, so hands up, I was wrong there. But now that we bring it back to what we've seen, Bitcoin has managed to fall back down to this $92,000 zone of support. We were talking about how this would kind of be the next block for Bitcoin to potentially find some support in right here at 92. And, so far that's been working a little bit, but it's the reason that I'm concerned about this now is, when you get a really nice kind of breakout like this and, you kind of stay there for a little bit, even consolidate, getting ready to move up again. If it doesn't work out, that's really going to raise eyebrows, right? I mean, just for you and I ourselves, right? Like if you're a bullish or, and it's going around the space right now. It's the reason, spoiler alert, I'm very, very bullish on the market still. But those of you that are subscribed, you're going to know about that because every single time the market has kind of reached a stage like this where things get a little bit scary, and I'll expand on why we're here in a second. Every time we've reached a stage like this, I've just kind of told you that, well, look, we're in a bull market, and it's actually very normal and natural while we're in a bull market to reach, emotional feelings like where we are right now. It's very, very normal, and I would say it's actually necessary for the uptrend to continue. I've actually never really seen exceptions to this. So, as far as I'm seeing, we're just kind of following the same template that we've always followed when Bitcoin pumps. However, to kind of break down why that is, I mean, you and I, people that have been watching this are going to be, very acutely aware of the fact that, Bitcoin managed to get to a very, very strong place and then it just fumbled the bag, right? And it just dropped it. And that's bad because, if you get a good chance to do something and then you don't follow through, then you might actually be very weak, right? And I think that's why Bitcoin very, very quickly came back down to those 92K levels. And, if you take a look at another coin like Ethereum, which is a great example of this, I mean, Ethereum took a little bit of time to get up to these kind of price levels, right? I mean, it managed to get all the way up to 3,700. Took about 5 days on the way up, but on the way down, basically to retrace all of that, move, on the way down, it happened in a day, right? So I think that, again, that really tells you a lot about how quickly these gains have been taken out of the market. And again, that's going to really make a lot of people quite concerned about where we are because, there's just a lot of talk about, is the market cycle top actually in and so on. And I can understand why people are kind of starting to ask questions like that, but obviously, I think it's completely unfounded and unreasonable because, one of the biggest points that we got to keep in mind is that we haven't broken market structure, right? Okay, and if we don't break market structure, then things are still basically the same. For me, market structure, breaking it would basically be a fall below 92K with conviction, and with conviction means that it either falls below and stays below for some time, or it falls below and clears this level with some margin, right? So again, you get a couple of percentage points away from 92K. Maybe we drop down to 89. That's probably when I'll be like, all right, the support's gone, and then we can start talking about moving higher. And by the way, I said the same thing on the upside, right? The top of the range was up here, and 3% is usually my rule, and we only just kind of got to 3%, actually a little bit higher if you draw it from here. So, it was basically there on the edge, but you want to see these breakouts substantiate before you throw weights behind them. And the reason for that is, we get a lot of fake outs, right? We get a lot of breaks which are actually completely fake and they don't manage to kind of stick around in the market. And if you're not kind of able to catch that, then, you'll be in trouble. So same thing for the downside here. Like I said, kind of 89K. We got space for wicks, right? I mean, we've seen wicks here. We've seen wicks going on all the time. Obviously, we got another nice big one right here. So the market's going to wick and it's going to have fake outs, and that's fine. But, anything kind of below, 89K with confidence, I think would be a problem. And, just looking at this chart, trying to identify where the market might fall down to if it does lose the $89,000 level. I think one thing that's, quite abundantly clear to me is that there is no support, right? I mean, basically from this yellow line down, and by the way, the only price history Bitcoin has ever had, in these price ranges is here, right? Bitcoin has never traded in these price ranges outside of right here. You know, so we don't need to zoom out further. We can keep this locked even on the 1 hour time frame could work. You know, we'll do the 4 hour actually. You know, and just looking at this chart, like, you know, if we do a little exercise here trying to identify where the market might fall down to, there's obviously nothing, right? I mean, there's absolutely, I mean, on the way up, the only price action Bitcoin ever had between 73K and, you know, 90K basically happened right here. And I mean, that's quite a big price range, right? We're talking about a $17,000 price range, 24% of Bitcoin's entire market cap, and it just didn't find resistance on the way up, right? And if something doesn't find resistance on the way up, then, you know, if it comes back down, you're not going to expect support, right? You're going to expect the support, you're going to expect the drop to be, you know, pretty much equally as quick. So that's where things get a little bit concerning. But honestly, like, only if you're a really, really unconfident trader, if you're a really unconfident market participant, and if that's the case, then, you know, you either really shouldn't be in the market at all, you know, or perhaps, you know, maybe you want to consider trading with a little bit less money so that you can regain some of your objectivity. Because while this is going to be scary for a lot of people, you know, the idea of another kind of 20-30% drop or whatever, you know, the bottom line is it's only the next level of support. And I've been making this point for many, many years. Those of you that have been watching this channel, you know, regularly over these years, you're going to know, you know, I don't visualize these markets in terms of, oh my God, we're dropping by 20K, or oh my God, we're dropping by 24%. I visualize these markets as, you know, we have a level here, and then a level beneath it, and then a level beneath it, and I'm just expecting support at each of these levels, right? I'm really not complicating it. I'm not even paying attention to the numbers, right? I don't actually care about what the numbers have to say, because they're you know, they're gonna scare you, right? I mean, it's not because they're gonna scare you, it's just that it's unproductive. They don't give you anything, right? Ultimately, you know, unless it's like a round psychological number and you're looking at it for that reason, which makes sense, for the most part, looking at actual numbers on the charts to me is not anywhere near as important as looking for support levels, because the support is where the price is going to bounce from, right? And so, you know, when you kind of look at it from that perspective, it's actually, you know, a blessing, because the chart is really easy to read. You know, there's quite obvious, you know, resistance that Bitcoin managed to build up throughout 2024 at this $72,000 price level. And naturally, I think that's where Bitcoin can find a lot of support. And it's just, you know, support over here and then support down here. There's nothing to be scared of, because the good news, and this is the really, really big point that people miss, is that on the way up, you'd probably expect it to move up just as quickly as it went up before, and just as quickly as it went down, right? These are your blessings, these kind of price ranges, especially going down, right? The reason it's even nicer going down is that if we manage to go up, right, above 103, above 108, we don't know when the market might stop, right? It's very, very hard to say where the top might be and where the next level to take a trade might be. It's really not quite easy to pick that out. But if we're analyzing something where we actually do have price history, then it's really easy for me to say that, you know, I'm not expecting any support at all in this price range, but I'm expecting a lot of support down here, right? So that's absolutely sick and really, really useful for trading. And, you know, speaking of trading, those of you that are interested in trading these markets, you've got huge bonuses available to you with the links in the description. Bybit offering you tons of cash when you start trading using the link in the description, and the same for Blowfin, which is absolutely amazing. So check them out if you're not from a restricted region. Bybit also offers you a debit card, which you can use anywhere in the world. It's a Visa card. Very, very cool. I've used it. I love it. Really, really well worth checking out if you're interested, but of course only if you are allowed to by the laws in your country. Coming back to the video though, beautiful support zone here. What I do want to do, however, is show you another side of this argument, which is just using a couple of indicators. We are aware of the huge amount of support on the daily time frame here. We were talking about it in the last video, so shout out to those of you that did see that. You know, we have managed to get quite close to this support level now, and you know, these Ichimoku clouds are very, very useful in my experience. They really, really help the market. So if the market sees, you know, a catastrophic drop right now, this this cloud covers us all the way down to 78. And then up here at 80. Obviously, I think that we could probably just fall through it, you know, if we do fall down now. But if we're able to hold on, I mean, you know, just for a few days, right, like about 5 more days, we're going to start to see this Ichimoku cloud in play at this $92,000 price level. And that, I think, is going to be where this thing gets really interesting, because if we can just kind of hold on, you know, throughout the rest of this week and then going into the weekend, which, I mean, by the way, the likelihood of us holding on for that long is not very high. So we're going to talk about that in just a second. But if we can hold on, and we've done that before, then actually there's going to be a lot of support kind of ready for Bitcoin. And you know what? Even if we don't, I mean, like I said, I'm willing to tolerate like a drop down to 89 or something. Like there's still support nearby. It's really not that bad. If we do end up kind of floating into this, I would expect something like this to happen. Plain and simple. We've seen it happen quite a lot. Here's an example of something actually that's not a good example. This is an example of a chart kind of bleeding into an Ichimoku cloud and then, really, really pumping up. Here is a much better example where you kind of, again, you bleed into it, but then you just kind of like sideways drop into it and then bam, you still get your move up. And I know that this looks, quite insignificant, but if we measure this was still a 25% move, which, to put it in perspective, this was a 25% move, right? So we're not talking about a small price move here at all. It just looks small because, this was, 20K, 25K to 30K. But, if we put this on the logarithmic, all of a sudden, these are basically the same, not basically, these are identical, price moves, basically, in terms of percent. So that's really, really useful. But bringing it back here onto the 4 hour, we've got that daily Ichimoku cloud, which is going to be giving some support to Bitcoin. 4 hour time frame, we've got, quite a big, nasty cloud of resistance that, did help Bitcoin probably move a little bit lower. Now it's developing support. There's no real spread here, nothing for me to say. 4 hour EMA ribbon, we have failed it as support and it is now flipping into resistance. So if Bitcoin does kind of start climbing back up, we might be able to expect a little bit of resistance at the kind of tops of these ranges, and the EMA ribbon might line up with that. I'm not focusing too much on it though because this range is a little bit too tight. And then on the daily, we're still in the EMA ribbon of support, which is really good. This is one of the things that's making me most bullish in the market right now. We're still in the EMA ribbon, so we're gonna have to see how this goes for Bitcoin here, but really just hanging on by a thread. It's not looking particularly great if you are interested in seeing this EMA ribbon, kind of support Bitcoin. I think it really just comes down to this $92,000 level. And, if Bitcoin is able to bounce off some of these support levels toward the bottom, then obviously we've got the top of the range here at 100,000. And then, basically until we break one of these ranges, we're still in the same sideways trading range that I painfully told you we might be entering a month or two ago. I'm not happy with it, but, that's not going to stop me from telling you what I perceive to be the truth. And I do believe that, it's not really up for debate. We are in a sideways trading range, and basically until we leave, we're still in that range, right? That's quite obvious, right? So I think, we've got to see how we respond to these levels. Right now, how likely is the downside? Fairly likely, I would say. I do think it's fairly likely. It's really not good that, Bitcoin got so close to a breakout and then choked. Usually that does result in another test to the downside. We haven't gotten it yet, but if it does happen, we could be looking at that kind of collapse that we were describing. And if we do fall down to this level, we're just at a support level, right? It's like I said, I don't think it's going to be particularly challenging for Bitcoin to get back up. We're still in an uptrend, and I actually welcome pullbacks. From our all-time high down to this level is a really nice, really healthy 33% drop. And if we bring it down, this is actually, this is quite a blessing. I really want you guys to see it this way with me if you can. The biggest correction that Bitcoin usually experiences inside of a bull market is 40%. And that puts Bitcoin down at, really one of its strongest zones of support on the chart at 65, 66K. Maybe 67 would kind of be where it stops. Really quite a beautiful level to see Bitcoin come down to. I wouldn't expect it to drop significantly more than this, or really any further than this, to be honest. But I don't know. We'll see if it happens. But if it does fall down here, there's going to be a lot of people that are scared, a lot of people that are kind of prematurely selling. But I think we're going to see a ton of support, a ton of buying pressure entering at those price levels, regardless of how negative the sentiment is at that point, because it's a really good price compared to where it was very, very recently. The idea that this market cycle is done. Look, I've been wrong before about market cycle tops, and I'm gonna be wrong again. I'm gonna be wrong about this one. So maybe you don't care about what I have to say, but you might actually agree. You might already be thinking the same thing. But Trump's not even president yet. Nothing's really even happened. That should be super, super bullish for crypto, in my opinion. If anything, and I'm gonna be really honest with you guys right here, what I think actually happened is there was a lot of hype about what might happen coming up over these next few years, because of better policy and so on for these markets. There's probably been a lot of hype for all of that. And that's probably, driven the price quite high. A lot of that stuff has probably been priced in just for now, at least. And so quite simply, I think, now we're recoiling a little bit. We are coming back to reality a little bit. That's what corrections do. That's the point of them. That's why they're so healthy. And so once things start getting real again, I would expect this to pick back up. I mean, that's just how I feel. So we'll have to see how that continues to go. I do want to take a quick look at traditional finance. We've got the S&P 500 here still sitting pretty nicely, pretty close to its all-time highs. Not really a huge amount to say about this right now. It's still looking good. The dollar is continuing to rise up, getting very close to smashing some of its previous highs from earlier this year. And that has seemed to have, a bit of a negative effect on crypto and traditional finance, but I don't think that the inverse correlation is as clear anymore as it used to be. So I'm not too worried about this. And actually, I'm actually quite happy with it because, as we know, the dollar, if it goes up, or really any asset or any market, when it goes up, there's now a lot more room for it to go down. Okay, so and especially for the dollar, which is much more of a kind of up down thing. I mean, we're not talking about a speculative investment here; it's just a currency. And so stability is what governments, and in this case the Federal Reserve, goes for. I mean, whether they achieve that or not is a different question, but stability is what they're looking for, and so stability looks like this going on forever, basically, or in a less than perfect world, it'll still trend, and in fact it'll overall trend down over the years. We're looking all the way back to the 60s, the 1960s here, and you can see a pretty clear overall kind of downtrend. There's a really big spike that came in here in the early, mid 80s, was it? Yeah, in the mid 80s, but for the most part, lower lows and lower highs here. So, I mean, the more the dollar goes up, the more I'm just saying, all right, well, there's a lot of potential for this to drop now, and if it does, that could be great for the market. So that's just continuing to load up. That's more of a long-term thing. Nothing really we can do with that right now. Bitcoin's dominance has moved up a little bit more just in this drop. Really not a whole lot of developments right here, though. Ethereum against Bitcoin, for example, doing the same thing. It's just kind of coiling up. It's coiling up in a bad place. This kind of price action to me indicates that it could be, getting ready to drop down again. It's basically bearish consolidation inside of a bearish trend. I mean, what do you want, right? Like, that's as basic as it gets to tell me that it's going to drop again. The best case scenario would be, a pump like this. We actually pulled it off, like a pump like this off the support level, but then staying up, like at least staying up here. That would have made me quite bullish. But, the fact that we're kind of, retesting this level nearly again is pretty bad, in my opinion. So we're going to have to see how that can kind of continue to evolve as things go on. Solana here is in a little bit of a dip, and that's quite beautiful. Hopefully it drops down to some nicer levels because I missed it and I want to buy some more. And Solana against Bitcoin, is kind of just in the same place. It's at the low. I mean, it's a good place, I think, to consider. I'm considering buying here. I mean, I'm half Indian, half Paki, so I think I want slightly better prices. But I think we're good as well. I think we're good where we are right now. Doge, if we take a look at Doge, one of our major meme coins, is not very impressive. I was actually pretty bullish on it right here, and it's done nothing, so I was wrong on that call. But it is at macro support. It's not even substantially lower than where I got bullish. It's only 13%, which for Dogecoin is very, very, very small. I mean, to put it in perspective, this uptrend was 238%, right? So 13% down is really nothing. But it's at a major support level. It's tested the bottom of it. If we lose this level for Doge, then it's probably going to turn into quite a big dump. But as it stands right now, we're still holding it. And as long as we can stay above it, we're probably, going to be working our way up to that kind of 45 cent area here on this chart. So that's Dogecoin right there. I'm not going to cover others because most of these charts are very, very similar. The number one main thing that I do want to focus on just a little bit more here is obviously, we haven't seen a conclusive break of the range for Bitcoin yet. But every time we see Bitcoin, really moving in one direction, I mean, especially recently when it's trending, right? Not when it's just kind of range bound going sideways within a, in this case, $10,000 range, but when it's actually trending, we do see Bitcoin's dominance go up quite often. I still believe that that's the case. And I really, to kind of close this off, I really believe that the sentiment I'm seeing of, this market is reaching a top and, whatever, it's going to be, McDonald applications again for everybody and stuff like that. I really think that that sentiment is quite perfectly timed. I mean, Bitcoin is at $94,000. Wake the fuck up, ladies and gents. Like, I mean, this is insane. And for people to be getting bullish, way up here. I'm sorry, for people to be getting bearish and scared way up here. I mean, it's just telling, I'm seeing the next round of people that are going to lose a lot of money, or that are going to, even worse, they're going to make some money, but not nearly as much as they should have. And the bottom line, I'm seeing the next wave of people that are going to be in a lot of pain. And it always happens just like this, when the market is still actually very healthy. I mean, this is ultimately the number one thing that I keep on kind of banging on about. I've made the most money in my life in some cases, just off this exact thesis that I'm about to share with you, which is when everybody in terms of their sentiment, or when a lot of people in terms of their sentiment, their feelings, their thoughts, their words are so negative and so scared, when that starts happening, while the chart is just at a support level, while the chart is still really, really bullish, if that's what starts happening, then, to me, it's just the perfect setup for a trade, more or less. Not a whole lot more to it than that, in my opinion. So you guys know the deal. If you like this stuff, go ahead and check out those links in the description below. You get tons of bonuses when you start trading using those links, and that's all free cash for you that you can trade with, which is really, really cool. I hope you have enjoyed this video. You know what to do. If you have, smash up those likes, subscribe, tick the bell, do all that good stuff. Only check out these links if you're allowed to, if you're not in a restricted region, and I will see you all in the next one.